Next, let's talk about the Soviet grand strategy to dominate South Africa. There's 5 major elements to this grand strategy. The first is external encirclement. The second is economic warfare against South Africa. Third is internal demoralization and psychological warfare. This is designed to lead towards internal revolution, and all of the above to lead finally to negotiation and piecemeal surrender to the revolution. Okay? The first is external encirclement. Now, the Soviets hope to encircle you to the north, much as they are encircling the United States with their military buildup in Central America to our south. Now, the first thing you notice on this map is that there's an awful lot of countries in Africa that are already dominated, the red ones, by the Soviets, the Cubans, the East Germans, their various surrogates. Their targeted countries are the ones that are starred, and those include Morocco, Chad, Sudan, Zaire, Malawi, Namibia, and of course the Republic of South Africa. As I mentioned earlier, they've moved massive amounts of arms into these frontline states, $5 billion into Angola, $1 billion into Mozambique, some $750 million into Zambia. They're moving more sophisticated armaments into these countries all the time. Even as they are talking and negotiating peace, they're increasing their military buildup, and that's designed not just to take out Renamo, not just to take out UNITA, which they certainly hope to do, but rather to eventually move those, maybe with the independence of Namibia, and maybe if SWAPO comes to power, as we fear they may, in Namibia, to eventually move those armaments down to the border of the Orange River and to put incredible pressure on South Africa, to intimidate South Africa, and maybe eventually to attack the Republic. Okay? Massive armaments. The Soviets have the biggest military buildup going on to your north that has ever taken place in the history of Africa, including in World War II, when Nazi Germany was building up in North Africa. Okay? The second element of the Soviet strategy against South Africa is economic warfare. Now, that we would think of as the sanctions movement, and that is a lot of it, sanctions, disinvestment, and other sorts of economic isolation. It started actually in Moscow in 1981 when Boris Ponomarev, who was the chief ideologue for the Soviet Union, called a meeting of all the communist leaders from around the world and said, folks, it's time to begin the onslaught to overthrow the Republic of South Africa. We're going to launch a massive campaign against South Africa at the United Nations through our communist parties all over the world. We're going to have disinvestment. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get cranked up. Go for it, boys. And they all took off. Okay? And 2 weeks later, we had meetings at the Riverside Church in New York City, and the leadership of the Communist Party showed up there, and we had the Ron Dellums and the Jesse Jacksons and a number of these people. Leaders from the ANC were there, leaders from SWAPO were there, and they began to plot for the whole sanctions disinvestment campaign in the United States. Never underestimate your enemy. Let me tell you, they did a very, very competent, thorough job of organizing. They did so for the next 2 or 3 years. They built their base. They organized hundreds of organizations around the United States, so that in the fall of 1984, what looked like a spontaneous outbreak, not at all, very, very well planned, broke out. We begin to see demonstrations in front of the South African embassy, led by this man, Randall Robinson, who was head of Trans-Africa, which is a Soviet-orchestrated communist front.